WMPG thrives with support from listeners and from Maine Solar Solutions. Maine Solar Solutions, helping empower homeowners and businesses with solar electric solutions for 9 years. Information at mainsolarsolutions.com.
You are listening to WMPG 90.9 Gorham, Portland, Southern Maine Community Radio from USM. Live from the Orion Cygnus arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this is Scientifically Speaking, a weekly half-hour program devoted to elegant curiosities, and I am one of your hosts, Sarah Chang, and joining me, as always, is Bernie Rhyme, DJ Starwatcher. How are you, Bernie?
Yes, hi, Sarah. Very good, thank you.
Bernie's our professor of the astronomy lab here at USM and our local protector of the night skies. Reach out to us at WMPG Scientifically Speaking at gmail.com or on Twitter at WMPG SciSpeak, and you can head over to WMPG.org to find the last 5 weeks of archives of all of your favorite shows, including this one. Bernie, could you let our listeners know what is up in the night sky for this coming week?
Yes, certainly. So today is Friday, April 1st. This is April Fool's Day, so I was thinking of saying something that's totally incorrect about what's going on in the sky. Actually, I'll give you an example of what actually happened. Back when Mars was at its closest in 60,000 years, in August of 2003, they were saying it was the size of the full moon, so about 100 times bigger than it is. So I could have said, get up early and look at Mars in the morning sky, and it'll be the size of the full moon. But that's
the whole point is that you don't tell them that what you could have done.
I mean, if I said it, then they would be looking for it, and it was a thing on the internet for many years afterwards. So I'll give you that. Okay, so the days are obviously getting longer. They're 12 hours and 43 minutes long. Sun rising around 6:30 and setting after 7. So that's good. We're quite a ways into spring already. And as has been the case for the last several months, we have no planets in the evening sky. So basically you have to get up early. Venus is still very bright. It's close to Saturn. Then Mars is a little bit over to the right and Jupiter's to the left. And then keep watching as Jupiter and Venus are going to catch up. And by the end of April, they'll have their closest conjunction in like 40 years. But right now you see 4 bright morning planets in the morning sky. And there's a meteor shower coming up later in April, so you probably won't see a lot. You can start looking. It's called the Lyrids. It comes out of Lyra, which is basically part of the summer triangle. So it won't be up until like later at night because we're still in spring. So that's about it. Not a real exciting week, but not bad. The days are getting longer and spring's here.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Bernie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And if you couldn't take notes fast enough, you can also check out the monthly What's Up in the Night Sky column in the Portland Press Herald.
Yeah.
Today's episode of Scientifically Speaking, we actually have a very special guest. Part of my intro, I always talk about how we have a Twitter. This is actually how I met today's guest. And so we have Damascene Hakuzimana here on, and welcome to the show, John. Just a brief intro, John is actually the host of Jumbo Time here at WMPG, which is actually on the same day. So today, Friday, at 7 p.m. And I think that started back in January. Earlier this year, right? Yeah. And Hakuzimana is actually, you're from Rwanda. And you actually speak a lot of different languages. You speak over 5 languages, and you actually have a bachelor's degree in journalism. So you're actually like a professional journalist. You have a radio background, and you've been doing this for way longer, probably more professionally than we have. And he also has a master's degree in community development from UNH. So welcome to the show, John.
Thank you so much, Bernie.
The reason why I got connected with John was because, and I think this was it's a tweet that is pinned to your profile. So when I saw it, I was like, just looking through, and I was like, oh, Lake Chad. That reminds me of a couple years ago in our show, we actually did a whole episode on disappearing lakes. One of the famous ones is the Aral Sea in Russia, or not Russia, Central Asia. Where is it? Is it Kazakhstan?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Is it Kazakhstan?
Yep.
Yep. And we've talked about a couple of different lakes. I can't remember all of them now, but the Lake Chad post that you had, I think it was linked out to an article, really caught my eye. And so I just assumed at the time that you had some kind of cultural connection because you cared enough to share it on your page. And so I wanted to kind of bring you on our show, hopefully, invited you on our show to talk about Lake Chad, how it's impacted folks, why it's been shrinking, and hopefully talk about some of the strategies that the countries in the basin and around have kind of employed or tried to kind of looked at to try to ensure that it doesn't completely disappear or that it does revitalize. So, Jean, if you would, could you please share just a little bit about your background and why, why do you care about Lake Chad?
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on. You said much about my introduction, who I am, and let me go straight to Lake Chad. Lake Chad, I got connected to Lake Chad in 2017, and that's when I moved from Gabon, and that's another country in Central Africa. And then I went to work in Chad as a communications officer in the United Nations Development Program. And one of the major program or component of the United Nations Development Program was about environment. And it was aligned with my interest about environment because I worked before that position in environment again. So I worked in gorilla conservation programs. I worked in protected areas management programs in 9 countries in Africa. So I have that bigger or broad picture of environment issues, the battle about climate change in Africa. I went to attend the International Union Conservation Congress in Hawaii. That's in 2017 again, 16, sorry. Yeah, so, and then when I went in Chad, and I realized that maybe that's gonna be my focus, even if I was also working on other programs, but I had much energy on adaptation, climate change, and most Lake Chad, because it's a tipping point when you are in the region. And the region you are saying is the north of Africa, that's Sahara and Sahel. Lake Chad, it's a body of water between 4 countries. And it much depends on this lake. And it's catastrophic to see how the lake is disappearing in a bigger motion. And well, that's how I went to connect with Lake Chad. So we had some projects that I was following up with colleagues. And then I found my interest in that lake until you found the Twitter that I pinned on my Twitter account. So
Yeah,
that's yeah. So that's one of the exposure story. We call it exposure in the UN language. So it's when you go after one phenomenon, you try to dig, you make pictures, you make videos if possible, and then you bring out a big story that can be, shared in international wise. So that story was shared on the global website of UNDP, but also UN. And I took a set of pictures, a big album that you can even track on Google. It's still being used when it's about combating desertification, when it's about combating droughtiness. So I still have those pictures being used in UN conferences and many programs across the world.
Wow. So your whole goal with this work was to let the world know about Lake Chad and how it's disappearing, and that was back in 2017.
Yes, that's back in 2017. But also I had a plus when I came to do my capstone at UNH. I was also trying to develop a strategy to involve communities to effectively involve communities in the restoration of this lake, and how they can play their big part in recovering the lake.
That's great. Let's definitely get to that towards kind of the second part. So a couple of facts for listeners. Lake Chad was actually originally the 6th largest lake in the world, and once the 4th largest lake in Africa. And actually, I was looking into its like geologic history, and it actually at one point had like a spread of 2.5 million square kilometers during like the Ice Age. So it was like this huge sea in the middle of Africa. And it like Jean, you said, it supplies drinking water, kind of a habitat for livestock, for animals, irrigation for farming, and just economic activity for over like 30 million people. And so basically since the 1970s, there have been kind of recurring droughts, and then since like basically the 60s, it's like lost 90% of its water, which is crazy. I think in the 1950s, it reached like this max surface water area of 26,000 square kilometers, but now it's about like less than 2,000. So that kind of gives you a sense of how much it's lost. And I don't know if Jean, you have like kind of an understanding of what specific reasons, but why like it's been shrinking. But I did see that the UN states that about 50% of the shrinkage of the lake is due to climate change, but the other 50 is due to management and demand kind of contributing to the rest of the shrinkage. And I couldn't find a lot of information on this, but I was heading towards this direction where there's probably some unregulated irrigation. And then there's, increased population, like migration moving towards the areas. But I guess the two tributaries that kind of feed into the lake, the Chari Lake and the Komadugu Yove River, or those two rivers, sorry, that they had kind of been, they're dams now to provide power. But I know like the Chari Lake had provided about 90% of the water coming into the lake. And so we think that those dams could have been kind of contributing to a big reason why the water has gone down. I don't know what your experience is.
Yeah, basically that's the major fact. So there is that climate change effects and the overuse of the water of the lake, but also tributaries, those rivers that are feeding the lake. So they cross in enormous land of a desert, and people, communities, they depend much on that. And we have the increase of population, the growth of population, demography. So that has been impacting the lake as they go like from 60s, like you said, up to now. That's why you see that the lake is shrinking on enormous rate and alarming one.
Yeah. Jean, so while you were in the area kind of taking photos and doing your part in exposing kind of the story of Lake Chad, did you meet with communities there, and do you have a sense of how it has impacted people in the area?
Yeah, I met with communities. We sat down together on numerous occasions, and they are crying. They know that I remember one old man who was in his 60 years, now it should be 65 or something, but he used to be a teacher back in the 60s. So when we were traveling around the lake's shore, he was showing me, hey, the lake used to be here, but now it's no longer here. So you can even count the miles from where the lake is and where it used to be. So they know that there is an alarming phenomenon going on. They are losing their water. They are losing their, the number one source of livelihood, and that they are aware that something is happening. So the community is, in despair mood, or they are desperate in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you think that they have a sense of like that there are organizations or the government is doing something about it or helping to do something about it? Or do you think they're just kind of just living their daily lives and not really able to make an impact on that?
Yeah, I think it's a complex issue in a way because the community depends on the lake, and we have farmers, we have elders, and they often had even, usual conflicts. They fight because of the water. So farmers want to farm, and the elders want land. Grasses for their cattle. So there is a sporadic fight between the two groups, and they are aware that they are in a bad position. So from the government side, sometimes they come to regulate those conflicts between farmers and elders. But the community in general that we talked, they feel like maybe no one is caring. The majority or many people that we talked, they say, hey, no one is caring. We are dying just in this way. We are losing something in this way. But also there is that complexity of many projects that are coming, saying that you are coming to help. But when you evaluate the results, you feel that nothing happened. So I observed those two different angles when I was traveling and talking to the community around the lake.
Yeah, I'm sure that's discouraging and probably leads to lack of trust with all the repeated projects that come. Oh, we can fix this. And then
that's it's even one of the questions that I was asking on my questionnaire when I was doing my capstone. So many will tell you, hey, those are projects from the capital city. They don't care about us. They are doing their stuff. So there is that disconnection between someone who is coming to save the lake with money, with programs, with ideas, and the community that is living the effects of the lake's shrinking. So that's why I was bringing a strategy on how to engage the community in an effective way.
Bernie,
Yeah.
You have some kind of interesting facts comparing Lake Chad to some other lakes around the world, right?
Yeah, because we had covered a few other lakes like the Aral Sea, which basically that word means sea of islands, so it's kind of interesting. So that used to be 26,000 square miles back in the 1960s, and it is down to about 2,000, so it shrank by 90%. Probably some similar reasons. We'll get into some of the reasons. And then we covered a little bit in the Great Salt Lake, which is about 1,700 square miles. And then our co-host, Bern, he had actually visited the Salton Sea, which is only 376 square miles, so that's tiny. It's actually 200 feet below sea level, and it has a lot of the similar issues. I know there's a lot of irrigation at the bottom end of it. You can see all that from space. So that's an interesting comparison. So I'm sure some of those things relate to Lake Chad and some don't.
Yeah. And so I know we were, like, Jean, you've been referencing your capstone work, which was part of your master's program, right? It seems like you really were focusing on how do we get the community to be involved in this active revitalization, because clearly these outside entities aren't doing a great job. What did you find kind of at the end, and how did you kind of engage communities around Lake Chad?
Yeah, to give it a perspective, we need to know that around more than 30 million of people, they depend on the basin of this lake, and they are not in one country. So some are in Chad, that's a country. Others are in Niger, that's another country. Nigeria, it's another country, and Cameroon. So those are almost 4 countries, and everyone is regulating the lake on his way and in the best of his national interest. So that's why those countries, they came together to have something they call Lake Chad Basin Commission, in a way of bringing the 4 countries together and to regulate the lake, to save the lake if possible. So my project was on Chad side, not on the other three countries,
Mhm.
but I was talking to communities, uh, so that we can elaborate the best ways they can participate in one of the projects that the UN was bringing there about planting more than 40 million seedlings on the lake's
Mm.
shore. So there were two choices. You will plant the trees, the seedlings, and you will go back to the capital city offices, and those seedlings, they're going to dry and nobody will take care. Or you will involve the community and you plant seedlings and they take care of the seedlings. So my goal was to help the community to own that program, which was a big program actually. So one of the many of the end results that we had, we managed to bring the community to form committees, women committee, youth committee, many committees, fishermen committees, so that they can make a rotation in terms of watering the seedlings. It was an issue. You can't plant seedlings in a wilderness. It's complicated. So, so you may ask yourself, is it magical, or how can a plant grow in the wilderness? So the committees, they were coming together to fetch water and come to water the plants so that they can grow. So the hope was, if the plants grow, we are recovering the vegetation cover of the lake's shore. And then we are fighting the erosion. The erosion in the wilderness, it's about bringing the sand to the lake. So that's how it happens. So then we managed to form committees, bringing water to the plants, but also meeting every Friday to take the conscious to talk about the lake, to own the lake, because there was that gap between information, knowing what's going on, and knowing who's coming to help. So every Friday they come together after having their prayer. It's a Muslim country. They pray on Friday, and then after praying, they sit down and they talk about the lake. They talk about the progress of project, and I'm glad that I was checking with my colleagues. The plants are growing. I'm happy that they managed to help them to grow.
That's great. I mean, I don't know why necessarily vegetation disappeared, but I do know that sometimes, like we've seen in some of our other environmental focused episodes, where sometimes there's overgrazing. So if you have too much livestock, they might overgraze on some of the natural vegetation, and then then there's erosion in that area. I don't know if that's the same thing, but I think planting trees or any kind of vegetation could help to shelter that.
Yeah,
that's really great.
Yeah, actually, that's the reason that happened. Yes, there is overgrazing on the lake or in the area. There is also that decrease of rain falling in the area, and we have that move from the north of Africa going down in terms of rain decreasing and desert advancement towards the south. So all those causes, they made this happening. So if you plant the seedlings or the plants, the trees, so you are kind of creating microclimate probably that can generate rain in a way and improve livelihood in a way, but also protecting the lake's shores from erosion and any other, from erosion. Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys chose, or the UN project had chosen kind of vegetation that was already native to the area?
Yes, there is acacia. It's one of the drought tolerant plant that you can have there. So those are the seedlings they made growing in the area, because they can adapt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Did you
That's
plant all
great.
of them yet? Did you plant all 40 million of them yet?
Yeah,
You did.
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
That's
How
crazy.
tall are they now?
Mm. Sorry.
No, how tall are they? When did you start planting these?
So that was 2017 actually. So
Yeah.
I say 40 million? It's 40,000. Sorry, 40,000.
Oh, yeah, you said 40 million. I thought that
Yeah,
was
40,000. I want to rectify that. So I I I was looking on the pictures. It should be like maybe 1 inch and 1 feet and some inches up to now. But you can imagine from some inches, 20 inches, something like that. Now you have 1 feet and something tall. So it's a success, and I really challenge the community to keep looking after those trees. They will be a big investment in recovering the vegetation of the area.
Yeah.
That's astounding. Yeah. So for your capstone, did you actually travel there? Because that was in 2020?
Yeah,
Or
that's actually I started in 2017 my master's.
okay.
Yeah, so I was in the area when I was doing those researches. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. And then you wrapped it up. Okay, that makes sense. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, you're really dedicated. Very cool.
Yeah.
So that's actually really great. You know, I do think sometimes it's unfair to say like, oh, you know, especially when it comes to recycling or reducing, say, like packaging waste. In the grand scheme of things, the little things that we as individuals can do is nowhere near what like industry can do. But in this case, you really focused on how can the communities really take ownership of the lake. So I did want to just highlight one of the strategies that commission that you had mentioned, the Lake Chad Basin Regulatory Commission. It sounds like they're moving forward with that TransAqua project, right? Which is they want to build dams and a 24,000 kilometer kind of canal along a geographic contour line to help take or siphon off some water from Lake Congo, about 8% of its water, to help fill Lake Chad. That seems to be a very expensive project. And we don't know what potentially the repercussions would be for some of the local communities along those rivers. So it is nice to hear that there are other strategies being employed by some of these smaller communities that maybe aren't, you know, millions and millions of dollars with potentially high risk. So Jean, as we close, do you have any kind of last words for, you know, somebody who's hearing this for the first time and they don't know about Lake Chad? You know, I think there's always this desire to be like, oh, like what could we do? But maybe thinking about from the perspective of, you know, how do we like the importance of kind of caring about our community from an environmental standpoint. What is kind of one takeaway that you could offer listeners?
So, well, my takeaway is that there is a community somewhere suffering from losing what was their source of income, and the consequences are dire. We had communities, people who are moving, who are migrating from one area to another area, and the climate change has been driving those migration trends, and you may even find people who migrated from climate change consequences in Maine and in other parts of the world. So how can we tackle this? We need to bring our hands on the desk and work on climate change issues, financing climate change programs, adapting the experts, all the science methods that they are telling us, coming free in climate change, overturning or any way of helping to reduce or to stop the climate change consequences.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Jean, for joining us today here on Scientifically Speaking. Hopefully we'll see you on your show.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Scientifically Speaking here on WMPG with myself, Bernie, and Jean. Stay tuned for Something for the Weekend with Anella. Listen to Jean's show tonight at 7. And from your favorite nerds, just a reminder to vaccinate, to mitigate, and then we can all congregate.